One in five suffer.
Erase the stigma.
Brain difference is not a crime.
Mental health isn't just your problem.
It's our problem.
And now, Mental Health Mondays with Marla and Dave.
Welcome to Mental Health Mondays with Marla and Dave. I'm Dave, and I'm here in studio. Marla, you don't look like you're in the same place as I am.
I'm Marla, and I'm coming to you from the 70s. Maybe.
She has also, not only has she traveled to Florida, but she has teleported back in time with very colorful wallpaper decorating the walls of her space. We want to let you guys know that please text the word GIVE, G-I-V-E, to 818-698-1021 and support our A Dollar Today Keeps the Stigma Away campaign. We are honored to have as our guest today Lily Holmes. Lily is the NAMI San Fernando Valley Youth Program Coordinator. Lily has been a mental health advocate since high school. She started volunteering with NAMI and is now the new NAMI Youth Coordinator for San Fernando Valley chapter. Lily suffers with anxiety but has managed to earn her BA in psychology. She was a case manager at Tarzana Treatment Center, and in the fall, she's going to be starting her master's program right here in the Valley. When we come back, we look forward to a great conversation with Lily Holmes.
Lily Holmes, stay tuned.
When Dave and Marla get together.
Mental Health Mondays with Marla and Dave and NAMI San Fernando Valley believe it doesn't take much to make life a little better for our neighbors, coworkers, friends, our family members, even our children who suffer with mental illness. When you support our A Dollar Today Keeps the Stigma Away campaign, you are doing your part to erase the stigma surrounding mental illness. For just $1 today, or $1 a day for 1 week, just $7, we can look forward to a future that does not include the unfortunate and uncomfortable stares, bullying, and the subsequent isolation that our loved ones who suffer with brain differences deal with. Text the word GIVE, that's G-I-V-E, to 818-698-1021 to donate. A Dollar Today Keeps the Stigma Away. Brought to you by Mental Health Mondays with Marla and Dave and NAMI San Fernando Valley.
All right, like I promised, we welcome Lily Holmes to the Marla and Dave Show. Hi. Now, Lily, right before we start our conversation, Marla, why don't you tell us why you're not in studio with us in this super fun party? Marla, we can't hear you, sweet love. Oh, now we can hear you. Welcome, Marla, to your own show.
Okay. What I was saying
Again, so what are you doing down there?
The reason I'm not there is because I knew that Lily would have the kind of story and energy that she could permeate states. She could go coast to coast with her story. So I wanted to test it out. So I flew to Florida. And in the meantime, when I got here, I thought, oh my gosh, my dad's in a time warp with his house, and oh my goodness, he's got health issues and he needs my direct help. But that's not going to stop me from my main objective was Lily. Lily, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Marla.
Awesome. So Lily, when I was given your introduction, you have accomplished so much in your young life. It's as if I was reading. That's pretty impressive. And usually, that much accomplishment doesn't come along with a mental health issue such as anxiety.
Oh, no, of course not. Absolutely not. No anxiety, no imposter syndrome, nothing like that. Mm-mm.
So how, as we dig into your story right quick, what in a nutshell were you able to overcome that most people aren't able to do so?
That's a really good question.
And how did you do it?
I would say that, the anxiety, while it also can be very crippling, is also somewhat of a motivator in some ways as well, at least for me in my case. And
Well, motivator in what way?
Um, a lot of my anxiety comes from like, making the people around me proud and making my loved ones proud. And so, simultaneously they're my support system, cheering me on and telling me that I'm doing great things.
Yeah.
While also, of course, there's a little lizard brain that's saying, well, are you really doing those great things?
And it causes you to work harder is what you're saying.
Right.
Wow.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow. And that
So-
you're not the first person who said that they've used their what most people would see as a struggle as a motivation, sort of flipping instead of a problem into a superpower.
Right. And I do think that it's kind of a mindset thing. And for me, that's kind of been like the whole healing process is kind of just like that reframing.
Okay, so when did you first realize that you were dealing with anxiety versus stress?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. I think I definitely still felt that it was like a form of stress in high school, and it wasn't really until college that I started to take my psychology classes, and a lot of life happens in college as well. You meet a ton of new people, and you're independent for the first time, and it was kind of that like camaraderie with people in my class and people who I felt were going through similar things as me, who then like identified their own situation as anxiety, and I was like, oh, I've never really claimed that before. Maybe I can.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
Right.
then were you getting therapy or?
Yeah. I was doing therapy after my sophomore year of college as it was a big adjustment period for me, and then a little bit after graduation, and I'm currently in therapy as well.
Awesome. And one of the things that we want to remind everybody is that asking for help, seeking help, receiving help doesn't define who you are. It's not about a label. It's just about doing the things that we all have to eat. And if we don't eat, we run out of energy. Same kind of thing.
Yep, absolutely, 100%.
Well, what I'm most impressed about, which I kind of wanted to delve into a little bit, is your early age of recognition. Because to be honest, just as most of us, I put myself in the category, we're kind of just lost with direction when we were in high school. So that was so to hear you talk about finding a lane at all
Right.
at that young age is I'm interested to hear how that happened at that time in your life.
Yeah, I think the most basic way I can describe it is that I was part of a club called Peer Mentors, and that club was really just about, we would meet with a school counselor at my high school, and we would get like assigned people, like people would get referred to the club, and it was kind of like a buddy system. Like we were really just there to like be a friend and support people who had referred themselves or been referred by friends, and that was one of the places that I was exposed to that kind of languaging of like anxiety, mental health, self-care, empathy, all of those kind of really wonderful things that helped me get a better grasp on it. And we would have debriefs, and that's where I was kind of like, I relate to some of this stuff that we're talking about that these people are struggling with too.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was and we all supported each other too, so it was a really great.
So one of the things that I marveled at, I was watching, I think, one of a Bill Maher show, Real Time, this weekend, and he was talking to someone who had gone to NYU. And what I didn't realize is that because we're working so hard to erase the stigma surrounding mental health and just making sure that everybody feels productive and feels their best when they're at school, a lot of resources have now started to show up on college campuses. Did you find that when you went to school?
Yeah. I went to San Diego State for my undergrad, and they had free counseling services. They were limited because, of course, there's always way more, demand than there is supply.
People need
But
help, right.
right. But they did have those free resources, and there were a couple of different clubs on campus that really tried to promote them, and I had a lot of friends who used them as well. So I think that's really great.
Yeah, that is, and that's just another sign that the work that all of us are doing is starting to pay off. Because I remember when I was at school, it was almost, the stigma was so severe that if you were to reach out, you were afraid of all the blowback that you would receive, and everybody started talking about you. You're you're quote unquote crazy one, which is a term that we don't use around here. We use the word brain difference.
Right.
But Marla, were you about to say something else? Did I interrupt you?
No, I'm agreeing with you wholeheartedly. That's one of the positive plus signs as to where we're headed, and we're trending in conversations. Like I say all the time, when it comes to mental illness, silence is not golden. So the more we share, and these programs are becoming available, awareness, acknowledgement is now prevalent. And so people have the opportunity for people to get help even earlier exists more now, in my opinion, than it ever did before, which is why we have to keep going down this road. We need the Lilies. We need everybody.
So do you find, Lily, that many young people are kind of gravitating toward seeking help for the issues that they deal with? And I know you're young, so have you seen a difference from, say, like when you were at the beginning of high school until now, of people just willing to say, I might need some help?
I think so, definitely. And my vision might be a little bit skewed because it is something I'm so passionate about.
Right.
So I definitely surround myself with it.
Right.
But I think just in general, I can think of people who I was friends with in 9th grade in high school who I know for a fact now have been to therapy at least once. And I don't know if they would have gone if, the world hasn't started to turn into what it is. And like we were saying with the, services on campus and college campuses, they were free too, which for me is like accessibility is such a huge thing too. Like not only the knowledge, but being able to actually afford it first of all. Right.
Exactly.
And
so
then
when you say the programs are free, you can go to regular weekly therapy sessions for free, or? Yeah,
that was a bit of what the caveat was. I think you had, I don't want to
like
get the
a certain
number wrong.
of
You had a certain number a year. But if you had, a case that the, counselors felt was a little bit more severe, then they would take you on as regular.
Right.
Escalate and then help you find the resources.
Yes,
I love that.
Exactly.
I love that. So at such a young age, what made you decide to start volunteering in this field to begin with?
I have a history of mental health conditions in my family. I have a history of substance use in my family, and that was something that I think I was always just kind of aware of. It wasn't necessarily a secret. And, for me, I just always kind of had that, like, I always knew I wanted to help people as some form, whatever that was going to be, a teacher or, something like that. And so that kind of pushed me in that direction when I started to learn more about what mental health was and, what psychology was in general. I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. I could do that.
Something that just piqued your interest.
Yeah.
And so you started volunteering with NAMI. And how long ago did you first start volunteering?
I was going to say, how did you find NAMI itself as an organization?
Well, I think I took a class with them. I took a training in, I want to say it was like 2019.
Okay.
And so then I volunteered after that training for a couple of months, and then I stopped when school started back up again. So I was off for a little bit, and then last year I started volunteering again after I took a suicide prevention training in April. And that's where I got connected to my old supervisor, and now I am still with them as an employee.
Love that.
Wow.
I love that. So, just your passion turned in a way to also make a living.
Yeah, thank
there
God.
You go. That's the best way when things come together that way.
Yes.
Go ahead, Marla.
And also to help, and I'm just saying, and also that, her experience and her passion have blended together to be able to reach out and help others, period. She's a bridge.
Absolutely.
And I appreciate that.
Absolutely. And we will continue our conversation with Lily Holmes right after this next break.
It's time for the Mental Health Minute with Marla and Dave.
Life can be stressful. You may feel stressed about performance at school, traumatic events such as the pandemic, a natural disaster, or an act of violence, or even just a life change. Everyone feels stress from time to time.
Stress is the physical or mental response to an external cause, while anxiety is your body's reaction to stress and can occur even if there is no current threat.
If that anxiety doesn't go away and begins to interfere with your life, it could affect your health. You could experience problems with sleeping or with your immune system, digestive, cardiovascular, reproductive systems. You may also be at higher risk for developing a mental illness such as an anxiety disorder or depression.
If you are struggling to cope or the symptoms of your stress or anxiety won't go away, it may be time for you to talk to a professional. Help is always available. You're not alone.
This message is brought to you by Mental Health Mondays with Marla and Dave. Never do anything without thinking about it first.
Marla is a feeler.
I basically live my personality on my scene.
When Marla and Dave get together, it's like a match dancing with a firecracker.
As promised, we are back with Lily. So Lily, you mentioned as we were going to break that your family has, like most families, dealing with certain issues when it comes to mental health. One of the things that you had mentioned that I thought I read, correct me if I'm wrong, that your parents were life coaches as well. And so that kind of helped you deal with, there wasn't so much stigma surrounding mental health when you were growing up, I guess, in the household.
Yeah. I feel really lucky for the fact that both my parents happen to also have the passion that obviously I probably gained it from them, right?
Yeah.
They're both certified life coaches. They haven't practiced in a bit, but they were very, very involved. They did the seminars and they did the meetings. They mostly worked with parents of troubled teens, specifically teens who were struggling with substance use. And so, growing up, knowing that that's what they were involved with and learning about it, even as a kid, it kind of really emphasized the point of it's okay to ask for help and there's always support there. And also that you're not alone because other families are going through it too.
Now, I was also a child of a mental health professional. And except mine kind of went the opposite direction. I felt a little bit more pressure to make sure that I had everything together because I really felt like I could have possibly been therapized 24 hours a day.
I can see that.
So I don't know if you had, and it doesn't sound like you had to do with that, but I know for me that's felt like an issue. Felt like that could have been adding to some of my stress that I felt. As teenagers, there's always certain amount of stress.
For sure. I mean, I can relate to the wanting to have it all together and make them proud and really embody what they're teaching to their other, they're working with parents of teens. So I'm like, well, I got to be a good teen.
And there are other people that are troubled that you're trying to make sure, oh no, I'm kind of feeling that way too. But do I say anything about it? And so,
but the counter side of that, which I think is a beautiful thing, is when you have parents who are in that particular field. I think that there's an information awareness that you have that some people may not get. But so, for example, you, Dave, and Lily both had the opportunity to have information that you could plug in to a different level of awareness than say I would about who I was and what I may be feeling and what I may be dealing with.
That's true. I want to say this, not that I grew up in a troubled household. I think part of what added to what I was feeling is my dad was currently working on his degree, his doctorate in psychology as I was young. So, he would bring home certain tests and just say, hey, take this test. Let me see how it's going. And, anytime you saw him reach into his pocket and pull out a pack of cards that were all different colors, you're like, oh, no, here we go again.
Here goes.
So it looks like you didn't clean your room in the last 2 weeks. No, but I say all that to say, do you find that it was trying to kind of follow in your parents' footsteps that kind of led you to your interest in psychology?
I definitely credit them with my interest and with my passion for it. It wasn't exactly what I was gonna pursue when I first started college.
What were your initial interests?
I was an English major.
Okay.
And I was gonna be a writer or a publisher, something like that. I love literature. I love to read.
Yeah.
And eventually, I really liked the classes, but it just didn't feel like
a good fit.
I could do this
for the rest of your life.
Yeah, exactly. So when I took my first psychology class, I'm pretty sure I called my mom and was like, "Mom, I can't. This is it. This is the one."
Well, good thing that they were supporting you with those decisions.
Definitely.
I know our daughter went to Syracuse, and when she wanted to be a journalist, but got into Syracuse via another school, I was like, with all the money that we're paying, pressure. You need to get into the School of Journalism in the next 6 months. Good luck.
It kind of sounded like this. Do you think I'm standing out here naked for my own good? No. Go get your degree in journalism.
Look what your mother has to do. No, just joking. So one of the things that interests me, especially when I hear about young people that are really going into psychology. It seems like, do you find that sort of gives you a more a serious outlook on life, and it kind of keeps you from sort of the normal teenage angst and some of the trouble that we could get into?
I wouldn't say the angst part, but maybe some of the trouble. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, which is good.
Yeah. I definitely, it gives you a certain kind of lens.
Okay, and so now talk to me about Oh, go ahead, Marla. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say that I'm sitting here listening to Lily, and where my brain is going is how unique is it? So, to be honest, our son went into early on in his life, had a drug addiction. And one of the things I learned quickly was that a counselor or someone who was going to help with his drug addiction was someone who had to, and the most effective people are the ones who've been through it. And I'm thinking about that now. I'm thinking about you, and I'm like, man, I wonder if it's the same. Honestly, it's a question for mental health that,
right.
At this young age, you probably have an audience that can understand or will listen more, because you're not just talking at them, you're talking with them about something you've experienced. Is that true?
I would say so, yeah. And I think even just having any adjacent experience too, David said, I worked at Tarzana Treatment Center as a case manager, and so shiny squeaky little 23-year-old working with people who were really struggling.
Of all ages, I would imagine.
Of all ages, 18 and up, any and all ages, and from all walks of life. And it was, I thought it was going to be harder to be able to relate to them and to be able to get them to, trust me and have rapport with me. And I really didn't find that, because like I said, I have that adjacent experience, and I was able to even just talk about mental health in general with them was enough for them to be like, okay, you do kind of get it.
They sense the empathy because of your own experience. Wow, that's pretty good. And so ultimately, sort of where are you trying to go with this, with your endeavors now going back to school for your master's? Do you plan to actually go ahead and become a full-fledged psychologist or a therapist or a life coach like your parents?
Right. I went a little bit of a different way. I'm going to be starting my master's in social work.
Okay.
And I chose social work because something that's really important to me, like I mentioned, is accessibility and is really, I want to be working with probably the most disadvantaged populations, because to me, that access and that knowledge and being able to spread that, like we were saying, we got exposed to that at a young age. Really not everyone does, and that to me is very important, and that's what I'm really passionate about.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, most don't.
Most don't, definitely. And so that I do want to do direct client practice, hopefully with mental health, mental illness, adults. I'm gonna be interning with kids soon, so we'll see how that goes. I might love it, but
it's just a thing. My cousin actually runs the social work department for Riverside.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah. So and even when I have spoken with her in the past, it's just a passion that comes out. And once you get touched with that sort of boots on the ground community outreach, you just it's just something that's part of who you are.
100%.
And so now Marla and I became familiar with NAMI through a class, Family to Family.
Yes.
Now, it seemed like at the time when we took our class, I didn't see very many young people flocking to NAMI. And so when we come back, I want you to talk about that and maybe some of the things that you're doing to make the youth program more accessible in our community. We're talking with Lily Holmes, ball of energy and a sage wisdom at such a young age.
Yeah, it's a gift.
And we will
don't
be
run off and try to be her. Just listen.
Absolutely. We'll be right back after the next break. All right, Marla. I don't know if you can actually hear that music.
No.
And you're close to Miami. There's a lot of, can you give us just a little pole dance?
No.
Okay, well, Marla's too tired for pole dancing. I'll do it. I'll do it today. Woo! Woo! Okay, making it rain. Anyway, so the fun music means, Lily, and we're joking, but it's time for the poll question. Marla, can you tell us what the poll question was last week?
You know, David, I can. Last week's poll question was, what percentage of the United States adults are currently experiencing a mental health issue? Your choices were A, 5.6%, B, 11.8%, or C, 18.5%.
Now, I guess
Lily,
last week
listen
was
up.
Deborah
Let me
Atlas.
It was.
Do you remember? Did she get it right, Marla?
I absolutely remember she had it 100% right. But will Lily get it right?
Ah, Lily.
Ooh.
5.6%.
Adults
Go ahead,
are
Marla.
currently experiencing a mental health issue? I'm just refreshing the question. What percentage of U.S. adults are currently experiencing a mental health illness? Go ahead, Dave.
5.6%, 11.8%, 18.5% of U.S. adults currently experiencing a mental illness.
I want to go with my gut, which is 11.6.
Okay, well, that's a different answer than Deborah Atlas gave us last week. So, wah, 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 wah.
Yeah, Lily, but you know what? You're young. You're still growing. There's many opportunities to come back and answer the poll question. You'll be fine.
And also, these numbers also are inclusive of the pandemic that we're experiencing. So, it is 18.5%, unfortunately.
It is 18.5. And Lily, we believe in second chances. Here's your
All right, here's your second chance, Lily.
What percentage of adolescent?
Hold on. The poll question for next week.
Okay.
So join us on our social media and answer this question. But Lily, you get a chance today. Marla?
What percentage of adolescents aged 13 through 18 suffer or have suffered from a mental illness? A, 28%, 39%, which is B, C, 50%.
What percentage of adolescents aged 13 through 18 suffer or have suffered from a mental illness? 28, 39, or 50%?
50.
I'm going to go 50.
50%. Well,
Okay.
this time, Lily, we cannot tell you if you're correct.
I know.
So we have to wait for next week. But you know what? Fingers crossed. We have faith in you, Lily. Guys, remember to text the word GIVE, GIVE, to 818-698-1021 and support the A Dollar Today Keeps the Stigma Away campaign. We're going to go back to our conversation with Lily Holmes. Okay, so Lily, a little bit of fun in the middle of the show.
Because Lily's the first person. People do strange things on the poll question. I've had people try to give me a fourth answer. Like, you don't just get to change the show. Lily's the first person who waved us off. Like, I know I can't hear it till next week.
Because I want to know.
Lily, listen.
I'm
Patience
sorry.
is a virtue,
I know. I do my research. I knew I wasn't going to know.
There you go. There you go. Well, hopefully next week you can see if your research is spot on. So Lily, before we went to that break, I was asking you, I was reminding you or telling you about our experience at NAMI. Of course, we were going to a family-to-family class, so that's usually parents and other family members trying to figure out solutions to deal with their children who suffer with brain differences, as we like to say. But I was saying that I didn't see very many young people around there at the time.
Right.
So when you say that you're the youth director, are there certain things that you're doing, or has that changed? Number one, are there certain things that you're doing or planning to do to make those services more accessible to the youth in our community?
Yes, I am still the youth director. And basically what my job is to coordinate the mental health first aid and the QPR suicide prevention trainings for NAMI, which we get grant funding to do from Dignity Health. And that means that they are free to the community. So they're free to San Fernando Valley and to residents of Santa Clarita Valley as well. Nice. And so for me, what I have been really trying to push is getting these trainings out to college students. It's 18 and up, so anyone could do it. Of course, it doesn't have to be college students. That's just typically where we find. We get lots of clubs. We get even classes. I had a master's class. Well, so
are you training people to help facilitate teaching these same skills, or are you just making those skills available to the community?
Yeah, making them available to the community. Okay. So both of them are certified programs, and they really just teach you kind of basic, like, warning signs, next steps, and resources.
Mm-hmm.
And they're a little bit different. They're tailored differently. We also have them both that are tailored to youth. So youths can take the suicide prevention one, and or we can also have classes for adults who work with youth, and they can kind of tailor those trainings to working with youth and supporting them with mental health.
Okay, so right quick, if somebody needs some help and they want to get involved with the NAMI San Fernando Valley Youth Program, how do they do that?
They could email me, or we have an Instagram, and just searching NAMI SFV, we have a volunteer form that they can fill out as well. But I volunteered just from emailing after the class that I took. So
awesome.
It's real easy. We're always looking for help.
Awesome. So you know what, guys? NAMI is one of the greatest resources nationwide when it comes to mental health services. We encourage you every time we get on the air to make sure that you make yourself available to those resources. Check out your local NAMIs wherever you are in the United States. And so, Lily, give us your closing thoughts or some form of sage wisdom that you've been giving us all afternoon when it comes to young people and mental health, especially when it relates to social media.
Yeah, oh, definitely. I would say that anyone who is in my generation at my age, you are not alone. And that's the most, cliche, cheesy thing you hear when you talk about mental health, but it really is true. And I think that sense of community and camaraderie and understanding between people is really what's going to, keep getting us through all these crazy things that life keeps throwing at us. And,
oh, my goodness.
And help us, end the stigma.
I love that. So our guest has been Lily Holmes. The time always flies when you're having fun around here. So thank you for being a guest. We're honored that you would stop by and speak to us. Marla, you hanging there down in Florida. No, Marla. Give me a big Florida smile.
I don't have the right flag hanging around my house right now, Dave. Okay? Sorry.
All right, so we will see you guys next week. Same place, same time. Bye, Marla. See you guys later. See you next week.
See you guys.